I hate videos. Now, you may be wondering, if I hate videos, what the heck am I doing here? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you find yourself in the world today. It is exciting times because I get to spend a little bit of time with all of you. If you're watching live, can you please drop us a comment and let us know who you are and where you're tuning in from? As you know, or don't know maybe, my name is Inger van Roy, and I'm recognized as a connection catalyst. I help everyone, entrepreneurs, corporate workers, to really stand out and connect with the ideal community. I am all about the principle of Ubuntu. And let me share with you what that means. Ubuntu is an ancient African word with its roots in South Africa, like me, and it means humanity to others. It is often described as reminding us that I am because we are. And the reason why I stand wholeheartedly behind this principle is because I would never be the person that I am today were it not for my community. So, if you and I are connected, I want you to know that I appreciate you and I truly am who I am because of you as well. If we are not connected, I would love for you to send me a connection request and let's get on that. Brené Brown said that connection is the reason why we are here. Today, I will be chatting with a lady. She is in Manitoba, and we'll be talking about the power of networking. Um, so, yes, please, if you're watching live, drop us a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I also want to say thank you to our amazing sponsors at Africa Radio, where we bring you the very best in local and international music. Um, if you don't know yet, I also host my live show on Wednesdays on that platform as well. So if you'd like to check them out, please do so by visiting the website that's scrolling across your screen. It is africa.co.za. The other show that I host is called Wonder Women Wednesday, and it's every Wednesday at 2 to 4 p.m. on radio, but live right in the middle from 2:30 to 3:30. So, I'm getting ready. I hope you are as well. I'm going to be bringing on my awesome guest right now. So, welcome to you, Marian.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm having some internet problems, but we're good now.
That's all good. Thank you for being here. Um, Before we get started, won't you please introduce yourself to everyone, let them know who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi everybody. My name is Marian Paul, and I am the owner of Kamamak Consulting. And basically, what we do is we do blanket exercises, um, mostly virtual. And what a blanket exercise is it works from pre-colonization, and it tells an Indigenous history up until today with the foster care system. We also teach Indigenous parenting classes. Uh, there are over 11,000 children in the foster system in Manitoba alone, and 90% of them are Indigenous, and we're hoping to change that.
What a beautiful mission. What a beautiful mission. Thank you, Marian. Let's go over and say hello to whoever's watching. We have Aligbe Newton. He says, "Good afternoon. I am Newton from Nigeria. Thank you so much for tuning in. And, I know that I'm not connected to you, so please send me a connection request. It would be my honor to connect with you." We also have Denise. He says, "Hi, I'm Denise. I'm tuning in from Mozambique." Thank you, Denise, for being here. Good to have you as well. And we have Whitney Koch. She says, "Good morning from Katy, Texas." Hi, Whitney. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
We have Laura Melando saying, "Happy Friday and happy September." Yes, it is September 1st. I can't believe it. It is my birthday month, and my birthday is right at the end of this month. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, we have Katie McDermott. She says, "Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday." Hi. Right? Oh my goodness. We have Denise says, "How can I send a connection request?" I'll look in the comments, I'll send you one. Thank you, Denise. And we have James. He says, "Hi, Inga. I'm tuning in from South Africa. Good to see you. Happy Friday, everyone. Great show as always." Thank you, James, for tuning in. Good to have you here. And we have some networking in the comments, which is what I love. Then we have James saying, "Great vision, Marian."
Thank
So,
you.
and James, by the way, I think Marian would be a good connection for you. Alton says, "Hello, Inga and everyone." He's tuning in from sunny Cape Town. Hi, Alton. Thank you for being here. And Whitney says, "It's her birthday month too." And Alton's as well. So, yay, we should have a party. We should have a party for sure. Oh, my goodness. Let me see. I think that was the last one. And Katie says good morning to us. Hi, Katie. Nice to see you here. Um, so, Marian, this is inspiration from Inga. So, let me ask you, what inspires you?
What inspires me? What inspires me are my grandchildren. I want them to have a better life
Mm.
than I did.
Mm,
Yeah, so they inspire me to do what I'm doing.
that's beautiful. Would you like to share a little bit about the life that you've had? Um, as much as you want. Go in.
So I am a survivor of intergenerational trauma here in Canada. Um, my great grandparents had their land stolen from them. They were out on a buffalo hunt. They came back and their land was gone. So as a community, they had to leave and go to another community. Unfortunately, there was a battle there, and so then they had to move again, which really was hard on my great grandfather. He really struggled. He couldn't provide for his family. He couldn't give them a home. Their land just kept on getting taken away, and he was a trapper. So when he would go to sell his furs, the first thing they would do is get him drunk. They would give him free alcohol. And then after he was drunk, that's when they would arrange the price of the furs. And on the way home, they would also give him alcohol as well. Because in doing this, they knew that the Indigenous people, number one, were allergic to the sugar in the alcohol. So they would actually, their bodies would crave it more. And they knew that if they kept them drunk, then they would be able to take advantage of them. So unfortunately, that started that cycle. And all my great aunts and uncles were all alcoholics. And my father, who was raised with his grandparents, also was an alcoholic. When I was going to school in the 70s, I remember my dad came home and said, we will no longer speak any other language than English, because I knew how to speak Cree and French and Michif. Those were my first languages. And English was my worst, and it's still not the greatest. But there was no explanation. And so I didn't understand, because at that time I would go to school and they would call me half-breed. My father, because his drinking issue, they would call him a drunken Indian. So I remember going to him one day and saying, like, why did they call me half-breed? And why did they call you an Indian? And I remember that he got so angry at me. He said, you are not an Indian. If anyone ever asks you, you are French Canadian. You have no Indian blood in you at all. I don't want to hear that word spoken in this house.
Wow.
At the time, I couldn't understand. I just didn't understand it, because I would go to my relatives in their community, and we would jig, we would have bannock, we would have ribbon skirts on, we were doing the ceremonies. But then when I went back to Winnipeg, we weren't Indian. We were French Canadian.
Wow.
Yeah. So unfortunately, my father was a very angry and violent alcoholic. He had been sexually molested from his priest when he was 6 years old. And he experienced some horrific things that no child should ever have to go through. And so he was a very angry drunk, and unfortunately tried to murder me 3 times. On the 3rd time, when I was in the hospital, they sent a psychiatrist to come my way. And when he visited me, he said, you'd be better off on the streets of Winnipeg than you would going home to your dad, because he will succeed in killing you.
Wow.
So when you're 15 years old, and you don't know what to do, and this professional is telling you to go live on the streets, you listen to him. Or in my case, I did. Yeah. So I lived on the streets of Winnipeg for a year. I'm now a survivor of sex trafficking.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was actually, I ended up getting picked up and arrested. And it was actually my probation officer that kind of said, okay, you can keep going the way you're going. Chances are you'll end up in jail, or even worse, you'll be dead. Or you can use this as a turning point and to do something with your life.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. I was unfortunately put into my dad's custody again. At that time, he had been sober for about 4 or 5 months, but he still had those tendencies. So I ended up meeting somebody and got married at 17 so I could get out of the house.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Yep. So got married at 17, had 3 kids, and figured out I married an alcoholic. Um, yeah, which was really hard. I was working three jobs. He wasn't working. I was working three jobs. I was going to college to try and get my early childhood education, and it was really rough. You know,
Yeah.
he was such an alcoholic that I couldn't even leave him with my youngest child because he would just pass out.
Mm.
And so the three jobs were so that I could pay for daycare. Um, and I just wanted better for myself. You know, I had come off the streets and yeah. So I chose a ECE, early childhood education, because I didn't know how to parent my children.
Mm.
I wasn't parented. My father wasn't parented. You know, and so that's what's happening now, is that we have so many parents that came out of residential school that don't know how to parent because they were never parented. You know, which makes it really hard. And unfortunately, the government has decided that they would rather take the children than to put supports in for them.
Yeah.
Hence is why we have so many children in the foster system right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that you went through all of that. But I totally understand, why your grandsons inspire you, and what, and why you want better for them.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing that. Let's go to the comments. I see that there's quite a few of them. So let's see. Mosin says, welcome, and thank you. Thank you, Mosin, for being here. And Katie says, September is my favorite month. I love back to school, and it's my anniversary. And it's epic road trip month. So Katie will be going on a road trip with her husband shortly. Um, James, yes. James says, birth month mate Alton. Good to see you on. We should catch up soon. By the way, so James and Alton, have you connected with each other? You haven't said anything, so I don't know. But uh, that would be awesome. I think. Yeah, you too. Good. I'm glad. We have Paolo. He says, "Hello, I'm Paolo from London, but I'm currently in Italy. Thank you, Paolo, for being here. Good to meet you." Whitney says, okay. So Whitney wants to know what is the date for the anniversaries. And she says, it is horrible how we have treated and continue to treat Indigenous people. Uh, yes, I know. Gail says she's on the road and she's listening. Hi, Gail. Thank you for tuning in. We also have Andre. He says, hola, everyone. And we have Dr. Zonzi. She says, hi, everyone. I'm tuning in from USA, Mississippi. Good to see you here. Oh, my goodness. You guys are making my day. And Alton says he just sent James an inbox. Awesome. Yes. I think you guys would be amazing together. And just coincidentally, Alton, can you please? I know you have an event coming up that is to raise funds for a charity. Won't you please drop the link over here so that people can check it out, and if they want to, they can support you. Okay, let's go back to the conversation, Marion. Um, so, hmm, I'm just thinking. You gave me a lot to chew on, and I think I told you this when I met you, but I have three daughters. My middle daughter is 15, and I really cannot imagine her in the situation that you found yourself at that age. Um, I I'm glad you survived, and I'm glad you lived to tell your story. I think it's important that you share it because we need to be aware of different issues that befall Indigenous people, but not just Indigenous people, also girls in particular. So thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. Um, so, when you were a child, who was your role model and why? Did you have one?
I thought about this, and as a child, I really didn't have one. My father had been married 4 times. Um,
Wow.
his idea of parenting was that if he could marry somebody, then they would look after us, and then he wouldn't have to.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, which didn't work out the best. Um, what I wanted to say, and I had forgotten, was that as I grew up, I found out that I am Indigenous, and that the reason why I wasn't allowed to acknowledge it is because of the things that were going on to Indigenous people. And as much as my dad might have acted like he didn't care, he cared very much. And he didn't want me to have to attend either residential school or get scooped up or get sold, because that's what they were doing to the children in the 70s and the 80s.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. There's often, when you think about everyone really that turns to substances,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's an underlying issue, something,
Mm-hmm.
some trauma that they've been through, that has really, been a catalyst to them turning to substances. So, as my friend Gail is in the comments, but as she always says, be curious, not judgmental.
Yeah.
Always try to be curious and show each other grace because you really don't know what somebody else is going through. You really don't know. So okay, so you didn't have a role model when you were a child, but what about further on in your life? Did you have somebody um and why?
I've actually had several um, people who have kind of helped me on my journey.
Hmm.
Um, Before I went on the streets, I had a lady, and actually, I just went to see her the other day. And so I guess I did have her. She was my saving grace, actually. Um, Her son was my best friend. And she would help me. When I had bruises and marks, she never asked, but she would just get her makeup out, and she would just do these touch ups before I went to school so that people didn't know. And yeah, and she was the lady that I would run to, and she
Mm,
was a big help to me. But I
beautiful.
guess my inspiration was actually, and this is going to sound weird, but it was my horse. My dad raised horses and raced horses for a living, and I had a horse, and her name was Dark Rose. And that horse followed me around like a puppy everywhere. And she was the keeper of my secrets.
Mm,
Yeah, she was the one who, when things were bad, I'd get on her and I'd just run. And then we'd find a tree somewhere and she'd lie down, and I lied down in her, like beside her. And she was the one I told my secrets to. Yeah.
wow.
So,
Isn't it? We all need a secret keeper, don't we?
yes. Yeah.
Mm,
And she was mine. And then, like I said, mom is actually what I call my son's best friend's mother. No, my best friend's son. I'm sorry, I'm all mixed up. But
it's
anyways,
another,
she
yeah.
was she was very important in my life.
Mm,
And through my life, there's been people that have come in and kind of gave me some encouragement and some words of wisdom, and then they've gone on a different path, and so have I. So
mm.
several of those people.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, we all need a secret keeper sometimes, just if you think about life. And it's funny how we tend to look at someone else's life and think that they're having the time of their lives. And I equate it to, because what we're doing is it's a lot to do with what we see on social media. So we're looking at, the person's life. We look at, it's a house, and we're only looking through a very small window where there's really nothing in the path of that window. So you're looking at it and you see people smiling maybe, or you see people just going along their business. But what you don't see is all the clutter that's behind those walls, right? So a lot of the time we look at other people's lives and we compare them to ours. But what we don't realize is we're comparing our entire lives to the highlights that we see on their social media, especially now in this day and age. So, anyway, Marian, um, a few years ago, before I started really speaking and guesting on shows or even hosting my own, somebody asked me to be on his show. And it took me a long time to agree because I struggled with being in front of the camera. And when I eventually said yes, and he knew how I felt about showing up on camera, he actually provided me with the questions because he wanted me to prepare ahead of time. And one of the questions really made me think a lot. And that was, what is your life statement? So today I want to ask you, what is your life statement? What do you live by?
I live by the butterfly. That is why my business is called Kamamak, which actually is Cree for butterfly. Because you start out as a caterpillar,
Mm,
and then you go through this process
mm,
of going into a cocoon. And
mhm,
while you're in the cocoon, you have so much work to do and hard work and always changing. But then on the other side, you come out as a beautiful butterfly with that freedom, to be able to soar. And that's kind of what I like to think of life.
mm. That's
So
beautiful.
thank you.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I don't know if you saw me react when you said that, but I was actually going to wear a top with that's full of butterflies. And at the last minute, I was just rushing to get on camera with you. I didn't change it to my top. But I love butterflies for the same reason, because I believe that I am ever evolving, ever changing, ever growing. And I know that, probably I will continue to do so until the day that I die.
Yeah. That's my goal too.
Yeah,
If I'm not learning every day, then there's something wrong.
yes, absolutely. Let's go to the comments. I know that there's a butterfly lover in the comments.
Yeah.
Um, so Alton says, thanks, Inga. I'm cycling 925 kilometers for my 50th birthday. To finish on 9/25 is September 25th, to raise funds for early learning development centers. So donations would be most welcome, and that's the link. By the way, Alton, you left out one W, so it's probably not going to create a link. So if you can recopy and paste it for me, I would appreciate that. Yeah, he said, I know, Alton, yeah, I could not even cycle 15, let alone 925 kilometers, and I'm younger than him. So good for you, Alton. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for everything that you're doing. And he's addressing you. He says, heartbreaking story, Marion. May you be blessed, healed, and live an amazing life. That's beautiful. And we have Dr. Zanzi. She says, social media can be such a mask of people's lives. Absolutely.
Definitely.
She also says that she loves that we all should have the butterfly effect to our lives. We are ever changing, growing, and evolving. Absolutely. Then we have Precious. She says, wow, beautiful life statement, Marion. Thank you, Precious, for being here.
Mhm.
And Alton has posted the link. So thank you, Alton. Um, okay, so let's move on to the next part of the questions. You and I met at a networking event.
Yes.
So, what is your take on networking? Like, how do you approach it?
To be honest with you, it was a struggle at first. I have been teaching parenting workshops and facilitating workshops for over 35 years, but
Mm,
I never did them on here. And I really didn't know how to network. Really didn't know how to reach out to somebody and talk to them. But I've had, I guess, some wonderful people who have come into my life, you as well. And I'm starting to form these relationships that without the internet and without networking, I would never, ever get to meet because our lives would just be in totally different directions. So I'm finding networking to be pretty amazing, actually.
that's beautiful.
Mm.
You do any in-person networking?
We do. I do. That's kind of what I was known for. They actually up here they call me Oprah of the North because I would go to all these communities and then I would be teaching and doing what I do. And so, yeah, one of my past participants called me Oprah of the North, and it just kind of stuck. So, but I love people. I love the way our minds think. I love the way that we're resilient. I love the way that we all struggle,
Mm,
but we're all still here.
yes,
So, yeah.
yes, yes. We need to build that tenacity and just, you know, not take things lying down, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
Um, wow. Okay. And how has networking impacted you? Um,
Um, it really has. It's made my circle
yeah.
so much bigger. It's allowed me, like I said, to meet people all over the world. And to listen to their stories and to hear their resilience, to hear um, their power,
Mm,
to hear their stories. Because as Indigenous people, we weren't allowed to tell our stories.
mm,
We weren't allowed to admit that we were Indigenous.
mm.
Because there was that fear, and there's still that fear. My dad is 83 years old now. He has dementia, but he still will not admit that he is Indigenous.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
we have a very good relationship right now,
That's
and we did. Once my children grew up, then and I started putting boundaries on my father.
mm,
I think that's kind of where I did a lot of growing. So,
wow.
yeah, but networking is amazing, and yes, I do network in public too. I'm known for being that butterfly and just going around and getting to know everybody.
Beautiful. It's funny that you say that because when I was in high school, so I was born in South Africa, and there was a lot of segregation, in the country. And when I was in high school in the 90s, I can honestly tell you, my generation, I'm like, the year that I was in whatever grade, um the people in my grade were all segregated, and you saw it. Like, you went to a classroom and you would see whites sat the side, blacks sat here, mixed race sat here, Indians had their own little clique. And I was friends with everyone.
Mm.
I would go from, and when we were on lunch break, I would be with this group, and then I would go to another group, and just, I was like, and people called me the butterfly.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, that's nice.
can you tell me, what do you do on LinkedIn? How do you leverage this platform, or networking groups? Do you have a strategy? Is there something that you can teach us? Can you let us know, please?
I'm hoping that you guys can teach me. I really didn't know what LinkedIn was all about. And so when I first started, I opened up um, an account that was for my business because that's what I thought we were supposed to do. And then I was quickly informed, no, you're supposed to be more personal. It's supposed to be about you, not your business.
Mhm.
So then I had to open up a second account, and now they're two different identities, and I'm trying to find a way to bring them together, but haven't yet. But I just find, like, just reaching out to different ones, um, asking them if, hey, you look like you could be somebody that, I'd like to connect with. And how would you like to get together and have a conversation? Or I'll put information about myself or information about the things that are going on right now that are important as
Mhm.
far as Indigenous people. There's so much going on, good, bad, and ugly.
Mm,
Um, there was 93 graves just found the other day
mm,
of unmarked children. So last night I had to have a conversation with my grandson um, because he said that could have been him and his brother. And they live with me. And yeah, it could have, and to have a 12-year-old child worried, you know, or thinking that that could have been him. Like that's a conversation I shouldn't be having with
yeah,
my grandsons.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, so that's kind of when you go on my site. That's kind of what you'll find is those kind of statements and why is it going on, and yeah, and some good stuff too, like what I'm doing. Like, oh, I had this. I have a blanket exercise coming up, and I'm all excited about it. And I was excited to do this with you too. So yeah, but that's kind of. I'm just like, seriously, I am just kind of wading my through, wading myself through this,
Hmm.
and meeting all kinds of people who will show me the ropes because I don't know how to do all that stuff.
Yeah,
I never thought at my age I'd be starting my own business.
yeah. Um, okay, so we have a little bit of time, and I think I would, if you would be amenable, I'd love for you to explain to us a little bit about what is a blanket exercise. Many
So,
people don't know.
yeah, yeah. It was actually, believe it or not, developed 25 years ago from a company named Keros. And basically, what it is, it was done in person for um, most of the years up until the pandemic.
Mhm.
And back then, it was you would get a circle going because we believe that a circle is never ending.
Mm,
And it's a safe place to talk in that circle. And we would take blankets and we would basically tell a story about what it was like from pre colonization up until today. with the foster system, which is another way of assimilation that's going on right now.
Mm.
And so we would go through it. So what we're doing online is we actually put you as an Indigenous people. So the participants are actually put in those roles, and you're given a piece of paper, and that's what you draw the rooms of your house or the rooms of your community. And as we're going along and talking about things like disease, like the Inuits who had their animals murdered so that they couldn't live their livelihood. The road allowance people who were the Métis people who had their land stolen from them. They were basically given a piece of paper that said that that was their land. It was a script. But then the settlers would get them to exchange it for a bottle of rye, or exchange it for $5, or and they didn't know because they didn't speak English, they didn't write English, so they were really taken advantage of. Yeah. So then we talked to about residential school. And what people don't know is the last church-run residential school actually ended in 1996.
What?
Yeah, 1996 is when they closed that one. But people don't understand there's still residential schools going on today. We have one 40 minutes away from where I'm living right now, because there isn't any high schools in any of the northern communities. So in order for children to get an education, they have to fly down here. And some of them have never left the reserve. And to come down here with no supports, with no parents, and put into a dorm, yes, it's run by the school system, but we find just as many issues are coming out of them as well. Yeah, this is a hard time for us because now when the kids are starting to come down, our suicide rates just skyrocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then from there, we continue on to the AIM program in the 60s Scoop. The AIM program was actually a program that was run from the 70s and the 80s. And when they were scooping up these children, what were they going to do with them? So they actually started selling them. And you could buy a child for as little as $10. And you could do whatever you want with this child because it was your property. They would have ads on the newspaper, ads in the TV, ads in the radio. And they actually gave awards out to the person who sold the most kids and the person who stole the most children in a year. So those are the reasons why my father didn't want, me to go through this. Then we actually talk about the murdered and missing and how that right now is such an epidemic. I know up here we've had three girls who have been murdered in the last 6 months. One of them being my niece. She was murdered in April. And the hard thing is that all of them were murdered. We all know they were murdered. But the investigations that are still going on, the coroners have labeled them as accidental. One of them was apparently she froze to death. And yes, she did freeze, but only after she was murdered and left in a snowbank. So this is such a huge issue. My niece, Indigenous, in a relationship with a non-Indigenous person. Not that it matters, but she was trying to get away from him because he was quite abusive. And she ended up dying
Mm.
while she was trying to. Now we know that it's not accidental, but that's what the investigation is saying. So my niece is now in the ground, and this man is allowed to walk free and live his life, as if nothing happened. And so it's an epidemic. We have it's like a daily thing
Mm.
north here. We hear about murdered and missing women all the time. And so we talk about that, and then we talk about the things that have changed, like the truth and reconciliation. I like to say that it's not, number one, the truth isn't coming out yet. The government is keeping that very, very to themselves. Like the fact that there's over 10,000 unmarked graves that have been found so
Mm.
far,
Mm.
and we just hear little bits and pieces.
Mm.
Um, so I like to say truth and unity, because reconciling, as an Indigenous person, I don't feel like I did anything wrong that needs to be reconciled.
Mm.
And I feel that that still picks two teams,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So I'd like to think that it's unity that we need.
Yeah.
We need to be united. So what I do is I tell the past, because you can't move forward until you know what's happened in
Yeah.
the past.
Yeah. So what what are the outcomes of doing these blanket exercises? Can you tell us a little bit more about why you're doing it?
Why I'm doing it is because I believe that people need to know the truth.
Mhm.
I believe that, there are reasons, like you were saying earlier, there are reasons why people turn to different ways of coping. Like Gabor Mate, he says there's no such thing as addiction. And I tend to agree with him, because if you heal the wounds, then people don't need to escape. They don't need to shut their brains off. And
Mm.
nowadays, everything is an addiction.
Yeah.
You know, computer, the phone, eating, drinking, drugs, exercising,
Yeah.
video games. Like it's all a way of coping through our lives.
Yeah.
So in telling that and explaining to them that intergenerational trauma is what has gotten us to where we are. And instead of giving us a hand up, we need a hand with us. We need to have each other wrap our arms around, because to me, it doesn't matter whether you're in Canada, whether you're in Germany, whether you're in South Africa, whether you're in Asia, we all have experienced trauma.
Yes.
And so what I hope to do in doing these blanket exercises is actually, from what I've been getting back from my testimonies, is life changing. Because people are starting to look at other people
Mhm.
in different eyes.
Mhm.
You know,
I think um, something that I've really become aware of is that we, as people in general, we gravitate towards the positive. We gravitate towards what's good, right? And sometimes what we do is we bury
yes.
the negative. And something that we don't realize is that you can never be truly happy until you address the negative that has happened, until you heal that trauma, right? And that's what I think is so beautiful about what you're doing is you're bringing the truth to light, but you're also working to heal that
Hmm.
so that we can move forward in a positive way. And I think that is so important to note. It's not that you want to bring up what's negative and the terrible things of the past, but we cannot pretend like those things didn't happen.
Yes.
We can't pretend that. Um, so thank you for sharing that with us. Let's go to the comments, and then if you can share your final thoughts with us. Let's see. Oh, we have my beautiful friend Diane Bayer. She says, "Happy Friday and sorry she's late." You're not late, Diane. You're right on time. Thank you for being here. Oh, Katie says, "I think I know a girl who can help you with your LinkedIn strategy, Marion, and she's
Mm.
because I'm that girl." I love you, Katie. You make me laugh. Oh gosh. Um, oh, what is going on here? Katie says, "Hey Diane, I'm thinking about making cinnamon rolls this weekend. It'll be 101 so I can slow cook them outside." Oh my gosh.
Oh,
101 degrees outside. Fahrenheit, I guess, yes. And Diane says, "Challenge accepted. Let's do it." Oh my goodness. Whitney is dropping us a comment. She says there's a wonderful podcast series about residential schools. It's mostly focused on the US, but it gives you a better understanding of why these schools existed. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
thank
Thank you. Precious says, "Oh my God."
you.
Dr. Zonzi says, "My heart is saddened to hear this." Thank you, Dr. Zonzi. And
Mhm.
Laura also says, "So heartbreaking and enlightening. The little known stories are so important to be shared." So thank you, Marion, for sharing them. Yes.
You're welcome.
Um, and Dr. Zanzi says, "Exactly. Unity is the mobilization of healing." Beautiful. Thank you. Um, yes, Marion. I really I'm glad that you're bringing these things to light, the issues and the things that have taken place in the past against indigenous people, and I think, in doing so, we can definitely bring unity and healing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Um, yes, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Now, I was just going to ask you, so we are approaching the top of the hour. I want to ask you, won't you please share your final thoughts with everyone? Um, you know, and just um, also let them know where they can connect with you, so that you can connect and become friends. So go ahead.
That sounds wonderful. I can always use more friends. So you can find me. It's Marian Paul or Kamamak Consulting on LinkedIn. And if you want any further information or you just want to reach out and say hi, that would be wonderful. As far as my closing remarks, um, he was the first person who was with the Indian Affairs, and his name is Duncan Campbell Scott. And he did the Indian Act. He helped with the Indian Act. And in the Indian Act, he said that his dream was that there would be no more Indian, that all the Indians would no longer exist because he was going to assimilate them through residential school and other ways. And I just want to be the catalyst to say, we're here, we're strong, you didn't get rid of us. You might have beaten us down a little bit, but you just gave us a reason to fight harder. And what people don't understand, which I love saying, is that we're the only ones having children right now. So there's going to become a day when we're a minority and not, or a majority, not a minority.
Mm,
And I hope in that time that that unity will exist and that my grandsons won't have to worry about the color of their skin
Mm.
And I hope that for everybody. I believe that there's only one, and that's the human race. There's no other races that belong. We
Yeah.
all bleed red. You know, we we all struggle. And we have the same hopes and dreams as everybody else. And so that's why I do what I do, because I want to make those positive changes. So in my grandson's generation, they'll know peace and
Mm.
love.
Well, thank you. I want to highlight something. I often say this, people often hear me say it, but no man is an island. We all need each other. We're all a part of this tapestry of life. And to be honest with you, all of us, when we're cut, we bleed red. So may that unify us and may we come together and build a better tomorrow for our kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that we unify with one another and we look at the future and what we can do to make it a good place for our kids to become adults in. So thank you, Marian, for being an amazing guest. I'm so glad I asked you and that you came and you showed up authentically and vulnerably, and I appreciate that so much. I know it's not easy to talk about things that are difficult, but I commend you on being able to share and standing in your truth. So I wish you a wonderful day. I will just put you in the green room while I wrap up. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around and hearing my story.
Thank you. And if you're still watching, thank you so much for being here with us, for spending this time with us. Fridays are usually my favorite. Yes, it's the end of the week, but it's also time for me to be able to spend with my community. So I wish you a wonderful rest of your Friday and a good weekend ahead. Thank you for being here, and thank you also to our wonderful sponsors at Inspiration at Africa Radio for their support. And by the way, I have one announcement. I hope you're still watching. I have an announcement. Be on the lookout for a series that is coming to you in September about community and AI. In collaboration with, excuse me, I will be in collaboration with a friend of mine, Lee Roller, and we will be talking about community building with AI, unlocking the power, the power of artificial intelligence for enhanced connection and engagement. We will be bringing you this series during the month of September. It is a three-part series. We'll be talking about AI in connection with connect, communicate, and collaborate, building community on LinkedIn and elsewhere. So, thank you so much for your support. As always, I'm wishing you a wonderful rest of your Friday. Be blessed. Take care. Let me see the comments. Oh my gosh. Precious says, great job, Marian, for fighting through all the trauma. You are so strong, just like you rightly said. We all suffer, but we are still here. Sending you peace and comfort. So sorry about your niece. Thank you, Precious. Whitney is supporting you, Marian, as well. She says, right on, Marian. Keep fighting. Dr. Zanzi says, have a beautiful weekend. And she says, this is wonderful, Inga. Great series on AI. Thank you, Dr. Zanzi. And you as well, Precious. She says, have a great weekend. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you. See you next time for another episode of Inspiration from Inga. Be blessed and take care.